When the prophet Job lost his family, his words were, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. The Lord gave, the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be God's name. And these have to be our words as we face the loss of our friend and relative and cousin, and Barry Lane, co-worker. And we say Adonai natan, that the Lord gave us Barry. He came into our lives, enriched our world. And now Adonai lakach, and now God has taken him from our midst. But because we were so privileged to have him as part of our world, we say thank you, God, with the words, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. Blessed be God's name for having lent him to us. This is a time in which we need comfort. So we do what people have done throughout the centuries. We turn to the book of Psalms. And there we find the words, Esa enai el haharim me'ayin yavo Ezri, Ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim va'aretz. I lift mine eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. Adonai yishmar tzeitcha uvawecha me'ata v'ad olam. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. Together as a congregation, let us recite the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Adonai ma'adam v'teda ehu. O God, what are we that you have regard for us, and what are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to revert to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright, they shall have peace. God, you redeem the soul of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. And in the book of Ecclesiastes it is written, L'chol zaman v'la'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim, et la'ledav v'et lamut, et la'tat v'et la'kornitiyah. For everything there is a season and a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. And this is just one of those moments which is really both. A time to keep silent, because when you're a mourner you find it very difficult to speak. But one of the things we know about mourning is that mourners need to talk and talk their way through their grief. And so if I might suggest that if you have an opportunity to sit with the friends and so forth, all of us who are grieving, the more we can talk, the better off we are. The more we can tell Barry stories, that's will be most helpful to everybody, kind of recalling his life, and that's what this eulogy is all about. So to tell the first part of the story of Barry, I'm going to call upon his cousin Howard to share with us some of his thoughts.
Thank you. Forgive me for I'm really not a speaker. And after a few minutes, you'll know that. I was going to say I did have Chinese food last night in honor of Barry. He loved Chinese food, and he could have that for every meal. I did want to say that growing up, Barry was, of course, older than me, and our families were very close. And so he was really like a brother to me. He was the older brother that I didn't have. I mean, a little boy can't really talk to his older sister about things. So his sister would care more about her own friends, that type of thing, And that's the way people are. So I would be able to talk to him and grow up together, and of course, we'd be spending almost every weekend over their house or our house. Would be switching back and forth. And of course, we'd also have the holidays when they would come around. And I remember with all the other relatives coming in that I would only see once a year or so. And of course, somehow, believe it or not, I was always the youngest. And so when we would have the Seder meal, I would always be the one asking the questions during the Seder meal. And Barry was probably the one who actually started me thinking about going to college. And I didn't plan on going to college, and he was the one that kind of talked me into that. I probably wouldn't have gone if it hadn't been for Barry's talks and his direction like that. Of course, I didn't go into the same field. I went into engineering. But I know that Barry also studied, you can read all that he did, but he also studied in London for a while. And there he learned a lot of things there that he used as a basis for his book. And Barry, he was of few words, so it was kind of hard unless you really knew him, but he did have a good sense of humor. And he did appreciate a lot of things that, we would have discussions and carry on long conversations about different things of the world. And he was able to go on cruises and meet several people. And a few years ago, he came down for my daughter's wedding. He flew all the way down there. I live in Georgia, by the way. So, it's kind of hard for us to get together because he had his health problems and I have my own set of health problems. But Barry and I were very close, and I'm going to miss him.
Barbara and your daughters, and Jim and Howard, and Dr. Hyman Cohn, and the rest of you who all knew Barry. I'm a great disadvantage. I must tell you, I did not know your friend, your law partner, your student, Barry Lane, but as a rabbi, one of the things you get to do is listen. And I did. I listened to Barbara, Barry's friend and caretaker, secretary, and all of that, and Jim, his best friend since law school at the days at Cleveland Marshall Law School. And what I heard, that here was a man who was content with his lot in life and what he had. You give him a book, and he could be alone and be happy. Give Barry a place to travel, like on a theme cruise, particularly about politics, with people like William Buckley, and Barry was as snug as a bug in a rug. Reading and traveling was Barry's world. What did you tell me? He has over 1,000 books at his home. He loved, as soon as I turn the page here, he loved as we heard, the English authors, especially mystery writers. He loved it so much that he not only traveled to London, but he went to Oxford and took a whole course on writing. And then he tried his hand at writing a mystery novel, or probably several of them, as you told me, in other literature. His book, Tales of Suffolk County, was published. Perhaps, where did he learn his love of writing? Could it be at Rutgers or in Dr. Cohn's class at law school, who he had so much respect and admiration for each other, and Barry had for Dr. Cohn, and it was a real friendship that developed. And you, Jim, as you told me, you studied together. You were in the same study group. You traveled back and forth to the classes together. You were two of the three members in the lawyers for Nixon back in the days. And this friendship became a lifelong one in which the two of you could debate politics. You could eat Chinese food together. Did he like Chinese food? Yes. And you could be there as true friends for each other. Jim, you admired Barry's wit and his sense of humor, as Howard mentioned, particularly, as we all did, his intellect. He was brilliant, the top of his law class in 1973. And he graduates and takes a job with Green, Haynes, and Scanetti. Okay, I'll get it right there. And one of the things is they recognized his writing ability. And so what did he do? He ended up doing research and writing appellate briefs. And he was, many people commented on his work, and the judges did, and so forth. And again, he was happy and he felt complete. This was his life. And then you have to add to that, well, there's a little bit more to his life because, well, I don't have any country western music that I could sing. He loved the country western music. He loved going to or listening to the Grand Ole Opry. He loved all the big names in the field. And life, again, was good for him. He had his parents, Frank and Adele, who he adored. In fact, one of his great moments, as you told me, was when he took his mother on a trip out west. He had a sister, Robin Oliver Shalom, who he admired for her intellect and for her accomplishments. The two of them were close and often enjoyed eating meals together, particularly Chinese meals, and talked regularly. I'm not sure they always saw eye to eye because when it came to politics, for Barry was a staunch Republican. And of course, then we would fail if we didn't mention the Detroit Tigers. I have trouble getting that out here in Cleveland. And he would go to games. Does anybody know how he became such a Detroit Tiger fan? No.
Oh, it was the announcer.
Oh, was the announcer? The only one he could get on the radio?
At the time,
Oh.
that's why
Oh, the Cleveland Indians weren't on the radio? Never mind. Don't go that far. But he loved so he would go to spring training, go to the games when they were here. As we said, he loved to travel. England, as we mentioned before, took the train out west and went to Canada, the cruises, went to Russia. So along the way, Barry meets a colleague at work, Barbara Reardon, and the two became fast friends. He confided in her, trusted on her comments, and as time went on, you became, so to speak, his personal secretary. And you mentioned you have this one memory of him standing over your shoulder, dictating as you're typing away. And as his MS progressed, Barbara, you became the one who took over and helped him in everything, the finances, his health care, where we can't give you enough compliments for all that you did for Barry. And Barry became dependent upon you, and you never let him down. And of course, your family got involved. Now, I only know Maureen and John. They got involved. You were cleaning for him, and John fixing things. But I know that the whole family was involved and had great admiration for this brilliant man who was kind, do anything for anyone who asked him, charitable, particularly to the MS Society and to the rescue mission, which he loved. He fought his multiple sclerosis brilliantly and with class. And of course, it did not help him at all that he had this diet of fast food and Chinese food. But this we know that with his love of reading and books of travel and visiting places in the world, he was a man content with his life. So before I read the final poem that I have, if I could take a minute, give me some other thoughts that I've left out or something that you would like to add to it and so forth.
I played golf once in a while.
Well, that's right. You did say once in a while. I like that term, yes.
Right. And we had a few games together over the years. And he was just a wonderful, kind, brilliant person.
He said he said that he did everything in his life that he ever wanted to do. He said, when I was a child, I wanted to become a lawyer, and I became a lawyer. And I wanted to travel, and I traveled. I saw everything that I wanted to see. I took my mother on this trip that I always wanted to do, and I was able to do that. I bought my dad a car, and I never thought I'd be able to do that. He said, I'm very happy that I was able to do everything I wanted in life, and he was content with his life.
It's wonderful. Others? As you know? Nobody else?
He was content with his life.
Yeah.
He never complained when we go over there to clean or visit, or I'd cut his grass. I'd always talk to him, and I'd get him riled up because I would, tell him I was going to put a Hillary sign in his yard. But on a level of intellect, he was up here and I was down here. But he always, I would always fight with him and get him going, get him riled up. Nice guy. I mean, never complained, and even when he was later, when he couldn't do hardly anything, he was happy to be, as long as he could be at home and do what he wanted to do. And once things got worse, it was time, and he accepted that.
He was also noticeably kind whenever we would go out. Whoever would be serving us, he was very kind to them and made the point. He was very generous.
Yes, he was very generous. I don't know how many times my mother-in-law would bring him his Chinese food for the week, or and then he'd always, not all the time, but a lot of times, he'd send over a shrimp lo mein for me. A big hot one too.
Go ahead.
I'm Hyman Cohen, not Dr. Cohen. In fact,
You're
his height itself is very embarrassing. Professor Cohen, that's what I was. In any
Okay,
event,
I'm sorry.
Barry, that's all right.
Yeah.
Barry was a student of mine,
Uh-huh.
and he was an excellent student. And I took an interest in Barry because professors generally take an interest, unfortunately, in very good students.
Mhm.
In any event, I would see him often in my office. And finally, I got the idea to call a lawyer in Youngstown. And I said, look, if you're ever looking for a very fine law graduate, I have one in mind, and he'd be terrific for you. I talked to Barry about going out to Youngstown and meeting with Dennis Haynes. And apparently, the two hooked up, and Barry spent his career with a law firm of Haynes and Schiavatti. In any event, I knew some of the lawyers there extremely well, and having served as a labor arbitrator, which I still continue to serve as a labor arbitrator, I kept in touch with Barry sporadically. What's going on, Barry? How are you? Then I found out that he had this condition of multiple sclerosis. I asked him what he's doing about it. He told me he comes into Cleveland every now and then, and he sees the doctors, and I said, Barry, why don't you come back to Cleveland? And he said, no, Professor. Youngstown is my home. And he had Barbara and Loretta, who knew me very, very well, and they took wonderful care of him. I always asked him what he was doing with his time. And we talked about reading mystery novels. And I made a comment to him, and I said, you know, it's funny, Barry, I like mysteries also. However, when I read mystery novels, I find that the last 2 chapters, authors don't know what to do. And as a result, the entire book unravels. And it somehow becomes so much weaker in the first 10, 12 chapters or 15 chapters that I read. He agreed with me. He said that at times you write a book, and the last chapters are always extremely difficult. How do you end it? You end it with a shooting? I said, that's a poor way to do it. That's what everyone does. In any event, we talked about that. But then I kidded him about the Detroit Tigers. I said, Barry, I can understand everything that you're about. You're an arch-conservative Republican. That's no problem to me, although working for a labor law firm that represents unions, there's something a little bit inconsistent there. And he laughed about that. And I said, what's this with the Detroit Tigers? What's going on here? You're from Cleveland. I'm from New York. I remember Mel Allen, who used to be the announcer for the Yankees, and he said, you know what? I fell in love with the Tigers when I heard their announcer. And he remembers the Alec Kaline days, and being an old baseball fan, it brought back memories. Like Greenberg, etc. He said, yeah, you would understand. I said, no, I still don't understand. In any event, Barry was extremely brilliant. At times, I would see the briefs that he had written in support of the union's position in the arbitration cases I had for their firm. And of course, they were absolutely well-researched, well-written, well-organized, and always with insights that I respected. He lost quite a few times, however, in a sense. Lost in terms of the cases that were brought before me. But look, I call him as I see him. But in any event, Barry was a wonderful young man. And I should remember a discussion I had with his father. I've been in my office, and I'm sitting there working on something, and I get a call from Mr. Lane. And I said, hello, Mr. Lane. He introduced himself. And I said, why are you calling me? That's awfully blunt, and I looked back at the question that I asked. He said, Professor, he always talks about you. Could I confide in you? I said, sure. he said, you know what? I do not like his eating habits. And I wonder, since he respects you a great deal, why don't you spend some time talking about those things with him? And I said, oh my God. I said to myself, I don't usually get involved in asking personal questions of students. I find, number one, I don't want to hear lip service, meaning the problems, because why should they confide in me? Who am I? But a person who stands in front of a class, I'm a professor of law, teacher. No more, no less. And as I would tell students in class, if you're going to be absent, you don't have to tell me. After 4 or 5 absences, please notify me. There are more important things in life than sitting in on Professor Cohen's class. There certainly are. You're up. In any event, I said, now, Mr. Lane, you have asked me to talk about something personal and something I usually don't do, but I'll do it. Why? Because you've made this phone call. I've never had a phone call from a father of a student. I asked Barry to come and visit with me. He was then, I think, living in Cleveland. And I said, Barry, this is going to be very, very difficult for me. I want to confide in you because your father called me. And Barry smiled and he said, I knew he would, or something like that. And I said, Barry, he's very concerned about your health. And so am I. Could you possibly alter your eating habits? He said, Professor, I can talk to you about anything in the world but that. I said, it's done. I've asked my question, and I've done what your father asked me to do. And I said, I'm terribly sorry if I in any way hurt you or offended you by that question. It's personal, and I don't want to get into that with you. Other than that, we talked about politics, we talked about baseball, we talked about Barry's interest in reading, and he was just a wonderful young man. I enjoyed him immensely. But as I told Jim recently on the phone, I don't know if I knew Barry that well because I never saw him laugh much. But then again, there's an expectation I have with students that there's a certain formality that maybe I have and perhaps I convey, which is unfortunate. And I never saw that part of Barry. And I said to Jim, I said, I wish I knew that he had more joy in his life. And Jim said he did. He always laughed. He smiled a great deal. But again, with me, you know, it was always the professor. And it's something that at times I carry around with me in Cleveland when I meet someone in the barbershop who's having a shave and they break, and somehow they're taking a shave and they say, hold it, professor. I said, what's going on here? Come on now, give me a break. I was a professor. You saw me for 4 or 6 months. What's the big deal? And you got a good grade with me? Fine. But look, certainly, I'm very happy about my career and happy that I was able to help, especially help Barry. And when I hear that Loretta and Barbara spent as much time, and their families spent so much time with him, it indicates something about the love and affection and care for him. He says a great deal about Barry.
Thank you for sharing. I just want to say one thing, you know, his MS impacted another thing that he loved doing, that was walking.
Oh, yeah.
In fact,
yeah.
when he purchased his home, his last home, he purchased for one reason, its proximity to the local Mill Creek Park in Youngstown.
Oh.
He used to spend hours walking the trails. In fact, he and I did a lot of walking on our lunch break, but he would walk on weekends. He knew the park, Mill Creek Park, like no one else did.
Oh.
Not since Volney Rogers has anybody spent as much time in that park as Barry did. So
We
he
drove
truly
through it.
enjoyed walking.
Yeah.
Became a major part of his life. Oh, fabulous.
Later on, I would take him for rides through the park.
Mhm.
When he couldn't walk anymore, we rode.
Following up on that, and his walking, I hadn't seen Barry for about 6 or 7 months. Oh, I hadn't seen Barry about 6 or 7 months, and he was in town, he came to my house, and he appeared at the front door, and he weighed about 160 pounds, I didn't even recognize him. And I said, how did you do that? And he said, by walking. And he walked a tremendous amount every single day, and he didn't modify his diet, and he lost the weight. He lost about 65 pounds, and he looked fantastic.
Can I just say,
Go ahead.
I guess I'm picking up Professor Cohn, by the way, thank you for sending Barry to Green Haines, where I now am, and all I can say is, after having been a partner of Barry's for whatever, 30-some years, he made everyone, all the lawyers who worked with him, much better lawyers. He made us all look like better lawyers than we are, but he was a very special kind man, and he's going to be sorely missed, just tremendously missed.
I heard that over and over again. Anyone else?
I just want to say one thing I want to add. Barry loved pizza. When Barry couldn't.
Wait, I thought it was Chinese food.
Well,
You gotta get the story straight.
Once in a while.
Especially when he wasn't able to
Yeah.
move around very well.
Mhm.
He would ask me to come over and he would order pizza from Pizza Hut because they delivered.
Oh.
I was out, pick up the pizza for you, Barry. No. And Loretta, your mom doesn't like pepperoni, right? And I said, right. And he said, well, I like pepperoni. I'm ordering, and I said, well, so do I. I'm ordering pepperoni pizza for us. But find out what kind of pizza your mom likes, because I know you eat with your mom. And he cared that much to think of my mother. And I mean, he was just the kindest person. He cared. A lot of times people didn't see that side of Barry, just like Mr. Cohen did not see the giggle. When Barry would laugh, he had this giggle about him. And he would just sit there, and I can't even do it, but he would make you laugh with his giggle. He was just a very, very special person in so many ways.
Yeah, he was.
So let me sum up with the words of a poem by an anonymous poet, which perhaps sums up Barry's satisfaction with life. And the poem goes, give me work to do, give me health, give me joy in simple things, give me an eye for beauty, a tongue for truth, a heart that loves, a mind that reasons, a sympathy that understands. Give me neither malice nor envy, but a true kindness and a noble common sense. At the end of the day, give me a book and a friend with whom I can be silent. We can say, as the obituary said, he followed the words of Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. And he did. And we can say this as well, that he lived a life that he enjoyed, was content, found pleasure, and did everything that he wanted to do in life. And all we can then say is, like Shalom, Barry, go in peace for a job well done in this world and for using your time in this world to your satisfaction and the satisfaction of others. Death has taken our beloved Barry Lane. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Barry's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship which he shared along life's path and which continues to the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more we give our thanks to God. And may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. And let us say, Amen. We rise for the El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim, Shorchein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechuna Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, Im Kedoshim Utaharim Kazohar Haraki Amazirem. Yet Yedidenu Ben Aviv Ve'imo, Shahalach La'olamo. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Barry Lane, the son of Frank and Adele Lane, who has entered eternity. Bal harachamim yastu rehu b'seder kenafav lo lamim v'yitzrur b'tzrur ha'chaim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar amen. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. You may be seated. This concludes our service here. We will continue at the graveside, and then we are going back where?
Marciano's.
At Marciano's, and all of you are invited to, and I guess contributions to the charity of your choice or to the MS Society.